We are live. Welcome to the Thursday 1 p.m. EST live in the Scaling Lean community. We do these every single week. And today we have the pleasure to speak with Mindset Marlon Johnson. Man, this guy, I met you about a year ago, right? And I remember we were at a clients and community event, and I remember you standing up, and your energy was just so amazing, man. And I just remember after that, we had a lot of great conversations, and then we'll uncover a lot of that potentially during this. But really, that just led to us growing our relationship and doing workouts together and talk about money and growth. And man, you even have Mindset Manor. You're the founder of that, and I'm part of that now. So it's really, our relationship's grown and it's been an amazing journey so far. So I figured I'd host you in the group and we could break down a few frameworks, man, right? On some of the things that you help your private clients with, right? I know you have many clients, and you're also part of Pace Morby's community. You were one of basically those founding couple hundred people in there, right? And now Pace is over what, 15,000 people. So, man, you bring a lot to the table. I'm super grateful to have you on. And of course, everyone, these are live interactive. So drop any comments below. Let us know where you're tuning in from today. And there's no better way to start, Marlon, than basically just rip in, man. Tell us your story, where you came from, and what you're all about, right?
I'm excited about this, Jonathan. So super grateful to be on here, man. And I love what you do with the Scaling Lean community. Just a big shout out to you for a minute. When we did meet at the Clients and Community Mastermind, I remember you were there with your partner, Nina, and just listening to you guys talk when it was your turn to present, talking about what you're up to. I was like, wow, these guys, first off, you're actually good at what you do. You produce results, not just for your own business, but for your clients. And then you're able to communicate so effectively where it resonated with me. And you were one of the few people in the room that as there was time for networking, I was like, I need to go and get to know this guy. I felt drawn to getting to know you. And so it's worked out well because now we get to live together. And so my journey, I guess let me bring you back because for the audience that you guys are watching, you might be like, who is this guy? Why is he even in front of us? The reason I'm here in front of you is because October 2019 is when I like to say I started my entrepreneurial path. And where I was coming from in life at that time was I was living in New York at home with my mom and my sister in the house that I grew up in. Get this, I was working three jobs. And when I checked my tax returns that year, turns out I was making about between all three jobs, about $25,000 a year. So, guys, if you don't know, that is poverty, no matter where you live, but especially if you live in New York. And so I was just like beginning to this season of life where I'm 26 years old. I'm old enough now that I'm officially adult, right? Like there's no kidding around about it. I can't afford my life. I can't afford to move out of my mom's house. And I was at that time dating a woman who had two kids. And, like a reality that life costs money and I have to go out and learn how to earn. And I'll never forget one of the three jobs that I worked as a parkour coach. I worked cleaning auto zones late at night. I would show up at about 10 o'clock and bring an industrial cleaner and buff the floors and all that. And then I worked in a catering hall. I had that job since I was 13 years old. And Jonathan, check this out. One night I'm in this catering hall and I'm mopping the floor because I would stay after and I would do additional janitorial work for an extra 50, $75 a night. And so it's 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. I'm here for the a millionth time in a row. And as I'm mopping the floor, the kitchen is open. So the door from the bar to the kitchen is open. And I look inside the kitchen and the kitchen is spotless because I just finished cleaning it. I mean, all the put away, all the pans are put away. But I just have this moment of disgust and realization because as I look at that kitchen, I already know what's going to happen. Tomorrow, I'm going to come back in for my shift around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that kitchen is going to be an absolute mess. I mean, pots everywhere, dirt, like it's just gross and disgusting. But then by 1 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be clean again because I'm going to be the one to come back and clean it. And my life was just beginning to feel like Groundhog's Day. I was living the exact same day over and over and over. And for the first time ever, I realized my life sucks. Like in that moment, like that, like it actually hit me of like I realized like, damn, this that I'm living sucks. And I was so pissed off about it that I actually took the mop and I threw it down on the ground. And in that moment, I did what I now call the rocking chair experiment. And this is something I share with all of my clients as a way of getting a sense of where you want to go in the future on really getting clear on what you want to do with your life. And I did it totally on accident. But in that moment, when I threw the mop down, I just got the urge and sensation to close my eyes. And as I did so, I found myself envisioning the future. And I saw myself standing in front of me, but at 90 years old. And the 90-year-old version of Marlon was sitting in his rocking chair on the front porch, just going back and forth. And I have the opportunity to have a conversation with him. And so I want to know how does life go?
Mm.
And he starts to tell me. He says, dude, we did it. You know, time I was going to school while working 3 jobs, I was also gearing up to go and finish grad school for physical therapy. And he says, we got it. We got our doctorates in physical therapy. We became a physical therapist. We're making, ourselves around 80,000, but we bumped it up to about 140,000 as the years went on. Woman, we had the 2 kids. We got the white picket fence in the suburbs, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. We even got that stupid little dog that barks just a little bit too much, but can't really get rid of it because the kids have grown attached to it. And as he's sharing all this, like excited about it, to be honest. And by the way, if this is somebody on here right now, if you're watching this and that's your dream life, please don't let it sound like I'm talking down on it. But when he was describing that life to me, I can just see it in his eyes. He had felt that he had settled, that he didn't actually try. And so as I'm talking to him, I ask him, because he starts like saying something over, he starts kind of mumbling to himself. And he just starts saying, like, what do you wish you would have? And he just says, I wish I would have gone for it. And I said, gone for what? And he does like, I don't know. I just wish I had tried. I wish I gave it my all. I wish I actually went out there and just gone for it.
Mm.
And guys, all I can feel, there was just one overpowering emotion, one overpowering sensation. And it was the emotion and sensation of regret. All I can feel coming from him.
Mm.
And I find myself snap back into that moment. I'm standing up there in the catering hall, in the kitchen by myself, in the bar by myself. And at that moment, Jonathan, here's the interesting thing. In that moment, I quit my job right there on the spot. Now, there was nobody at the buildings. I actually had to come back the next day and quit for real. But like in that moment, I made up my mind that like, you know what? I don't want to be that man. And so I just say this to the audience. I know I'm going to get into my actual there in a second, but just for the audience listening, if you guys are in a position where right now you're feeling a little confused about what you want to do with the future and you don't quite know exactly where you do want to go, a good place to start is knowing what you don't want. Oprah
Mm.
Winfrey said, for a person who doesn't know what they do want, a great place to start is to start knowing what you don't want. And so I just knew that isn't how I wanted my life to end. And I would be okay risking everything and losing versus playing it safe and winning that safe, boring, regret filled life. And so when I quit, I decided to chase after, I didn't know what. I really just took to the internet like most people and I started searching, how do I make more money? How do I get rich? And I came across many things, but what I landed on personally was real estate investing. So in October of 2019, I invested into a real estate program hosted by Robert Kiyosaki. I paid $1,000 for this real estate mentorship. Put things into perspective, my savings account had $3,000. I had one credit card with a $3,000 limit. So my net worth there was 6 grand. And if you count the Honda Accord I owned that I paid 2 grand for, my net worth was 8 grand. And I invested into this program for $25,000. And to get the program, I borrowed money from family. I maxed out credit card. I did it because, again, I was betting on myself to figure this thing out. And fortunately, if we fast forward to the present moment, which is about, 5.5 years after that time that I jumped into the program, I've been able to wholesale properties across the nation. I've been able to do fix and flips. I own a portfolio of rentals, of Section 8 rentals up in the Midwest. I've raised millions of dollars of private capital. So I have hit what a lot of people consider success. And upon hitting what others consider success, the interesting thing that I discovered, and this is probably why my name is Mindset Marlon and not Real Estate Marlon, is that in order to get to these places where I was producing the results that I wanted to create, it really was 90% mindset. And it sounds so cliche in the very beginning when you're just trying to figure out how to make your first dollar. And these people keep telling you, just focus on your personal development, just focus on your mindset, just read these books. And you're getting pissed off, like, why won't just show me the way? Just show me what I need to do. Just show me how to do it, and I'll go out and make the money. And we all think that way. But the reality is, you've got to change who you are first. And towards that end, I mean, I would share a story with the audience. It's cool about really how I made my first paycheck because even though it wasn't a huge paycheck inside of real estate, it was the one that was the biggest mental shift that's allowed me to go out and produce, $40,000 a month, $100,000 in a month. It's like the really unlocked the growth. I think it's the thing that can give the audience the most value. So is that cool if I share the story?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love how vivid you just made that there too, because I can relate. Like sometimes it's so many years to hit that bottom, man. So I can totally relate with what you're saying there, and that's amazing, man. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, right on, going, dude, 100%.
I love that, man. And so check this out. Guys, I want you to follow the time frame for a minute. October 2019, I sit inside my 3-day class for real estate. I get sold, right? And by the way, this is my first time going to like an in-person event, so I don't realize there's going to be like a sales pitch, any of that. So they totally caught the kid off guard. And I'm grateful they did, though. Because the guys in front of the room, they're now great mentors. They're great friends. I mean, one of them like a father figure to me at this point. And I'm so grateful he sold me. So if you guys have ever been sold and you feel icky about it, probably were sold by someone without integrity. But you all know, like you guys are scaling lean, you understand what it's like to be sold into a community of integrity. And so I got sold into this community. These guys had massive amounts of integrity. I'm all in. It's a 12-month program that I paid $25,000 for. So the clock is ticking. I want to go and produce results. And so I start learning, I start educating myself. And if you guys follow this timeline, October 2019, what starts to come after that? You guys remember global pandemic. The world shuts down. So I lived in New York at that time. New York was one of those places that shut down more heavily than other states in the US. And so people are not leaving their house to get groceries. People are not going outside even for a walk in the middle of the day. I mean, it is absolute shut down. It was a very weird place. Some of you remember seeing those pictures online that Manhattan became literally a ghost town. And so I'm getting into real estate, and my mentors and the program is telling me that I've got to pick up the phone, start calling people and asking them if they'd be interested in selling their house. So I'm just doing what the program says, and I'm calling these people like, "Hey, would you be interested in selling a house?" And they're like, "Screw you," right? I mean, like, guys, like the things I heard, "Screw you, kick rocks, get the f out of here. You're trying to steal my house during a global pandemic. Get a real job." I mean, I literally heard it all, and these shots, all these shutdowns, were starting to get at me because here it is. I'm following the process. I'm doing what they said to do. I'm committed. I'm taking action, but the results aren't being produced. And every time I go to pick up the phone, I'm just hesitating internally that am I even going to be able to close a deal? Am I going to even be able to purchase a property? Every time I would say, "Hi, my name is Marlon Johnson. I'm a real estate investor," I felt like I was lying. I mean, imposter syndrome was at its all-time peak. And I'm just struggling. And a month goes by, no deal. 2 months go by, no deal. 3 months go by. Not only do I have no deal, but now I'm in this place where like I'm worried and I'm stressed out because in debt for this program that I bought, and I'm just losing money by the day. And a buddy of mine reaches out to me, and it's funny, Jonathan, you mentioned I'm in Pace Morby's group. A buddy of mine reaches out to me and he tells me about this Pace Morby dude. And he's like, "Dude, you got to check this guy out. He's super credible. He's super helpful. He's teaching people real estate." And I'm like, "Listen, man, I cannot invest into anything else until I first make money back because I've already spent so much money." I mean, I know a lot of you are there where you've like, "I've already spent so much money. I can't double down. Like I'm too scared." And I was in that place. I'm like scared to spend anything else, but I'm already in the hole. And he just convinces me, like, just watch this video. So I watch a video of Pace. And here's the reality. I see it. I'm like, I see the value. I see that be what's missing to my repertoire because he has a community involved. So I join into his community and check this out. After I join into the community and I buy the solution, I feel good for a moment, but then still my own imposter syndrome kicks back in. And now it's month 4, still no deal. Month 5, still no deal. And so I'm at the point, Jonathan, where I'm doing work each day. I'm getting ready to I have my system open for real estate in one tab, but then in the tab right next to it, I've got Indeed open. For those of you that don't know what Indeed is the website you go to, don't have a job and you need to go make money. And I'm like that person. I'm like, I am a freaking idiot. Because like my jobs got shut down during COVID. I'm not working. I'm on unemployment. No money has come in the last 5 months. I'm now over $30,000 in the hole. And I feel like quitting. And on top of all this, I've been in total isolation for the last several months because of the pandemic and no one's going outside. And so in my last little Hail Mary, I pick up my phone, I message, and I say to him, I ask, "Is it okay if I come out to Arizona?" Because right now I'm in New York and I'm trying to make this business work. And I haven't seen anybody, I haven't anybody, and I just need to see how the hot dog is made. I know your team is closing deals. I just want to come to your office and shadow your team for a day. Would that be okay? I'm not asking for a job. You don't need to put me in a special spot. I won't make noise. Like I'm a hands on. It's killing me because I haven't been able to be hands on. And he says yes. And so check this out. When I get to Arizona, I fly myself out to Arizona. When I get there, I go to his office and I meet his partner. This is a long story, but I promise you it's worth it. I get to meet his partner, and his partner is the systems guy. He's more the integrator, the behind the scenes. He's the one running the teams. And so he lets me hang out with him for an hour. And he opens up his laptop and he's showing me, like, "Yo, Marlon, check this out." And they've got an army of 40 in the background that are working. They're making the cold calls that I was making. They've got an army of 40 people making these cold calls. And I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, I can't afford an army. Like, this is how you guys are doing the business. Like, I'm just one dude. I didn't realize I was going up against 40 people at a time. Then he's showing me these systems and these automations. And, he was meaning well, but I don't know if this has ever happened to anybody where somebody who's a lot further ahead than you starts showing you all the things that they're doing. And instead of it inspiring you, it just makes you feel even less worthy, even less capable. And that was happening to me. Like didn't want to say anything, so I just sat up. I shut up and smiled, right? Because I'm grateful they're taking your time with me.
Mhm.
But after that hour, he allowed me to go and hang out with the sales team. And those were the guys I wanted to see because they were the ones in the trenches. And that's where I found myself. And I wanted to learn from them. And so I'm thinking, okay, these guys are certified closers. They're certified operators. Been doing real estate for the last 3+ years. They've each done over $1 million worth of revenue income coming in to as each of their skills. So I know I'm about to learn some stuff and see some stuff. It's kind of like getting the opportunity to go and play with LeBron, play with Steph Curry. You're going to learn because these guys are the best.
Mhm.
And as we set up our computers, I set up my computer over to the side. One of the guys sets up his computer right to me, and he begins picking up the phone and he begins dialing. Now, keep in mind, as he's calling these leads, these are warm leads. These are people that the cold callers had reached out to. These are people who want to have a conversation with their company. These are people who have entered into their system. My leads were just if you answered the phone, you were considered a lead. Like if another human was on the other line, I called you a lead. Even though you weren't a lead, I was so desperate to talk to humans at that point, I would put you into my system. And so I'm watching Tino call these certified leads. And on those first couple of conversations, I'm hearing him get rejected. I'm hearing people say, no, not interested. No, kick rocks. No, your offer's too low. No, we don't want to work with you. Stop calling me. And I'm thinking to myself, Jonathan, whoa, what's going on? This is like watching Steph Curry shots. Steph Curry doesn't miss shots.
Yeah.
And Tino is taking rejections along with the other guys on the sales team. They're all taking the rejections. And while they're taking the rejections, they're goofing around in the office. They're shooting Nerf guns at each other. They're having fun. They're high fiving. And so I'm just listening. And all through the morning, all the way up to the afternoon, it's rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection. And they're going at thousands of leads in their system. And so at some point, Tino says, all right, guys, let's go grab some lunch. And I'm like, grab lunch? Like, what do you mean grab lunch? Like, we can't eat yet. They're looking at me, what are you talking about? I'm like, guys, none of us have closed the deal. No one made any money today. Like, we don't deserve to eat. And look, I'm not proud of this moment, right? But like, that's how like high strung I was and how stout I was at that time, where I was convinced that if I didn't make money, if I didn't move the needle today, I'm not even worthy enough to eat food. Does that sound? And Tino literally had to sit me down and he had to logic me into lunch. He literally said, Marlon, you do understand we have more work to do, right? It's like, yeah. He's like, and you do understand that energy, yeah. And food restores energy so that we can. And he talked me through why it was acceptable for us to go and get lunch. So, Jonathan, we go and we get lunch. And check this out. While we're walking through the parking lot to get lunch, again, the guys are still high fiving, joking around, acting like it's the best day ever. And I'm just so utterly confused. Then it occurs to me they know I'm the new guy. They know I flew in from out of state. They're clearly hazing me. They're messing with me. They were calling their garbage leads all morning just so that they can get in my head a little bit. But now, because obviously, like they're running a full business, they can't just mess with me and haze me all day. Like they got to get back to work at some point. After lunch, this must be the real time when business turns on. So we get back to the office. And again, I'm watching. They get back on the phones, rejection after rejection after rejection. In fact, at one point, phone, and he says to the guy, yeah, you know what? I don't think we're a good fit to work together. And he hangs up on that guy. And I'm like, first off, it never even occurred to me that I could hang the phone up on somebody else because I've been trying to get them on the phone so long and keep them on the phone that we have power to pick and choose who we work with. And so the day ends, 4 or 5 o'clock wraps up. Not a single deal was closed. No needle was moved in a major observable way. No money was made that day. No revenue collected. But the guys left the office. Great job today, guys. High fives all around, right? Like attaboys. Hey, see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Energy never dropped a little bit, not even an iota. And so the next day now, I spend the day with Pace. And so Pace he talks to me and he says, hey, out of curiosity, did you get what you needed? Like what you came here for, did you what you needed? And I said, yes, but it's not what I thought. See, I actually got more than what I needed, but thought I was coming out here to learn how to be a better closer. Maybe there was a line I wasn't saying. Maybe there was just a posture I wasn't holding my body in. Just that's what I thought I needed. And instead, what your team showed me yesterday, I don't even think they realized they showed this to me, is yesterday I watched your team face rejection all day long. I mean, literally from start to finish, they were rejected after rejection. And at no point did they get to them personally. The mistake I've been making all the way up until this point is every day that I didn't make money, every day that I didn't close a deal, every time I was rejected, I counted that. I measured that as a screw up, as my screw up. that these were all the reasons. I was building this long book of evidence of why I'm not a worthy real estate investor, on why I'm a terrible entrepreneur, on why I'm not the guy to close a deal, on why and I was just building and building this resume, not realizing all the stuff was in fact evidence counter. It was actually evidence. All the rejections I faced, I now realize that's a part of the game. All the
Yep.
rejections actually is proof, positive, that I am a real estate investor, that I am an entrepreneur, that I'm pushing through all the no's to get to the yes, and I'm going through all the things that everybody else gives up. And that did it. What happened was there was a paradigm shift. Internally, my self identity finally shifted and finally aligned because I now stopped viewing failure and mistakes as reasons for not being an entrepreneur. And I saw these as, wow, this is all evidence that I am an entrepreneur. The fact that I keep showing up day after day. And the interesting thing was, I knew this logically. I had read books, right? I watched videos. I knew this logically, but being amongst other people, feeling their vibration, feeling their frequency. See, they weren't faking the funk. They weren't pretending to be happy at the end of the day. They were happy all throughout the day. I can energetically feel it. And that's when I realized, wow, this is what needs to shift. And so check this out. When I got home, I flew home. Within 2 weeks of being home, I closed my first two deals. And here's the crazy part about it. The crazy part is nothing about the technical how had changed. It was the same leads in my system, the same phone, the same scripts, all of the everything about everything was the exact same. It's all the same. The only thing that had shifted was me. Internally, I had shifted my identity. And that's when I realized, okay, it's true. Your income is directly correlated to your image, to your level of personal development. In fact, Jim Rohn, I heard him say it years ago, and those words started to ring in my head, where he said, your income will never far exceed your level of personal development. And so I want to remind that to this audience right now, that as you're working on your business, as you're working on raising your financial thermostat, and it's a thermostat, you've got to do that work just as much as you're doing it externally. The external work is necessary. However, if you do only the external work and you never go inside and do the internal work, you never shift that internal thermostat, it's going to be for nothing. You're not going to get to the place where you desire to be. And so I'm hoping that resonates with the audience, Jonathan, because
Oh, absolutely.
that was the biggest mindset shift that I had. Since then, I mean, that first check, I made $4,000, which isn't money now, but back then that was literally the biggest check by 4 times that I had ever seen. And I made it in my pajamas in my mom's bed, like in my mom's house. So life-changing money to me.
Yeah, man. So many great gems there. Appreciate that vivid, like, clarity on where your journey was. And the big thing I got there was like, for one, you took the risk on yourself. You went out the pace, which a lot of people wouldn't do that. That's risky, man. It really is. Like at that time, he was establishing himself, and he wasn't as big as now, but still, man, that's quite the risk you took on yourself. And I loved how you touched on that energy, right? That energy is really what like levels you up as that next self, as I've learned too along the journey. So I totally relate with that. And then that sales team, that was probably massively eye-opening because the way you presented that, I thought they were like they're in abundance, right? And then they're kind of in that scarcity, that lower energy path, right? Man, that's such a great story. Thanks for sharing that. And where I kind of want to go now is like, what are the habits that you started implementing, right? After you had that big epiphany, right? Because you're big with fitness and you're regimented. I wouldn't go as far level, but you are definitely a regimented guy, right? And that's one thing that I've taken away from you, man, is like just putting in those consistent reps, investing in the daily, and like taking those little micro steps every day to get 1% better. So why don't you bring us in a little bit about what your big epiphany is there with like your daily, right?
100%. So that's a big thing. The daily practice is how you do one thing, how you do everything. And this is something that if anyone ever studied Einstein, Einstein is famous for this quote that interest is the eighth wonder of the world. That as you do these things, they stack and stack and stack. And people think of compound interest just in terms of money. However, I look at compound interest in terms of everything in your behaviors, in your physical health, in your relationships, that as you show up to things over and over and over and you pour in, that whatever energy you're spending on, whether it's your business, whether it's learning a new skill, whether it's getting yourself physically fit, it starts to add up. And when it grows exponentially, it unlocks new doors and new levels in your life. And so what happens is oftentimes we want to get to the place where we compound, let's say our finances, we compound our business, and we're in a season where it's new to us and there's a lot of uncontrollables in that area of life. getting into business, you might not yet fully feel in control of your ability to close deals, or you might not fully feel in control of your ability to attract the right teammates or to market and generate enough leads. And so there's a lot of things that are in your life that are uncontrolled. And you start to focus on these things at the detriment of everything. Because where you focus on that, you start to grow it, right? Where your attention goes, you're going to put more energy into that thing. And so what I like to do is I make it a habit to control the things in my life that are controllable because it starts to expand into all areas of my life. Simple example. In the morning, I wake up and I make my bed. And this is something I've been doing for some years now. And I do this because it allows me to, one, control the act of I say I'm going to do something and then I do it. So now they're like it's not making the bed. And this is why people get it confused because people are like, like you have to really, I mean, if I didn't make my bed, it wouldn't bank account. But here's what it is. When I make the bed, the association I have to that action is I say I'm going to do a thing. And so then I go out and I do it. And each morning I get to exercise that muscle and I get to strengthen that muscle. And now I'm compounding that muscle. So I'm controlling the controllable so
Mm-hmm.
that later when I enter into other areas where I'm not as certain and I'm not as confident, I have the confidence in my ability to do what I say I was going to do. So that's waking up and you go and you do the uncomfortable thing out in the morning, 5 o'clock. Like, so typically my habits is I'll wake up early in the morning. As of late, though, since I got back from traveling across the world, I haven't been doing the 5 a.m.s. For if anyone, Dorian, you guys know what we did last year. Last year, my buddies and I, we run across America. We ran from Santa Clara, California to Central Park, New York, 79 days, over 3,000 miles, running 40 to 44
That was
plus
fun.
miles per day. And it was the reason we were able to get it done is because we had worked on and compounded that muscle of if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And so that's a major part of when we're looking at building a habit. I like to tell people you want to develop habits from the standpoint of who you have to become in order to create and enforce a habit, which is you have to become a person who honors their word. You have to become a person of integrity that follows through on what you say you're going to do. And so start with the small habits. Start with the things like making up your bed, washing the dishes in the sink, putting your shoes in a certain place, like keeping your to a certain degree. Starting work, if you say you're going to start work at 9 o'clock, just start work, even if it's the crappiest work you perform. Just start when you say you're going to start, stop when you say you're going to stop. Control these little things, watch how they begin to compound. You're going to find that in other areas of your life, there's going to be more order and structure that comes along with it. Right.
Mm.
So this, Jocko Willink says discipline is freedom, and it's true. I am with controlling these controllables. Interestingly enough, paradoxically enough, I find that I have more freedom in my life and I produce better results overall. So that's been my experience at least, right? Like, and I haven't found anyone that's come to me and kind of the other side of like, no, I just totally grow how it may, like weeds in a garden, and life's been working out awesome. I just, if that person's out there, come talk to me because I'd be interested to know what you're doing, but that hasn't what I've observed, not in myself nor in others.
Man, so many gold nuggets you're dropping here, brother. Love that so much. What comes to my mind now, kind of transitioning, is that journey, right? Like we now hit these pedestals, right? I know for me personally, I was in like a 9 to 5 for decades, right? So in my mind, it was kind of looping back where you started. It was like we're rewarded for by getting pay raises and things like that. Where in entrepreneur, we almost have to shift that whole mindset, and now it's like what is that one thing that will move the needle the most in order to help us hit that next level? So the question I have for you now, went from a guy that was $25,000 in debt trying to land his first deal over the course of a year. You met these massively impactful people like Pace, you were in Robert's program stuff. Now on the end that like, 5 years later, now you're massively successful, right? Yours, and you have, created your sales guy and you present in front of rooms, right? And so like what are those levels of expansion that you went through to go 0 to 10K a month and then to 20 and then 20 to 30 and 50 and 60 and 100, like those type of things, right? Like what have you noticed to break through those levels, really get to that next level in your money too? Like that's super important. I'm personally going through that journey now, right? Like I think we all do. And
Yep.
I'd love to a little bit more about how that went because that's also a big part. You got the consistency of your physical and your daily are super impactful. But I feel sometimes as entrepreneurs we can get stuck in. We just have to work harder with those things, right? But actually, it's not that at all. It's like finding those highest leveraged areas in order to really level up and really break through those next limits. The Big Leap is a book that I referenced, and that's helped me a lot with kind of understanding how we're holding ourselves back in these old limits.
So in order to talk about this, right? Because like this is mindset, right? This is what we've got to understand. I said it earlier, and I'm going to repeat it again for the crowd, is your income is never going to exceed your level of personal development. Another way, your income is going to be in alignment with your identity, with who you see yourself to be. And your identity, a lot of people, first off, don't even recognize that they have an identity. And
Mm,
here's the interesting thing. We as humans in today's society, we've gotten so damn good at wearing masks and pretending and faking that sometimes we believe the mask we're wearing and we forget that there's a person underneath us. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with the mask. In fact, I actually teach my clients how to create different masks for different scenarios because you're playing different roles. When a doctor shows up to the doctor's office, I don't need my doctor to be my friend. I need my doctor to be my doctor and save my life. I don't need my banker to ask me about my cats. I need my banker to manage my money and give it to me when I need it. And so these roles are necessary for us getting jobs done and us being able to rely on people to deliver certain results. And so when it comes to raising our own income, our own money mindset, our own blueprint, we've got to work on shifting the internal identity. And what does that mean? It means defining the type of person that you need to be in order to produce the life that you want to have. And
mm,
then when you define it, like, and you truly define it, you've got to live in alignment. So I'm going to talk about this from the vantage point that I know, which is real estate, because that's what I spent the last several years doing. And so inside of real estate, Jonathan, a lot of people, you're going to hear this. The fastest way to spot a new real estate investor is you're going to hear them say, I just want to get my deal. I'm like, if you ask them what their goal is always one of $1 million this year. I want to make $10,000 a month, or I just want to get my first deal. Cool. Making $1 million a year, awesome. That was my goal as well. Making $10,000 a month, awesome. I also had that same exact goal, as I also had the same goal to make $1 million a year, which if you do the math doesn't math, right? Like you got to be making
yeah,
at least $88,000 a month to
yeah,
make $1 million a year. But this is just, it's starter kit entrepreneurship. Like that's how you know someone's getting started, because these are original goals. And it's good to have these goals because they're typically expansions from where we started. But this is where I want to focus: the deal. I just want to get a deal. I just want to get a deal. A good deal. I just want a deal. Great. Let's work on getting you a good deal. By the way, what is a good deal? And this could apply to any industry. It
yeah.
could apply to network marketing. It could apply to sales. It could apply to lead generation. What is a good deal? What is a good lead? What is a good client? What is a good prospect? See, people don't ever take the time to define what these things are. Therefore, they can't work in alignment with it because the picture in their mind is fuzzy.
Yeah.
Because if I said to a person, "Hey, look, if we did a deal and you can make $1,000, be a good deal for you?" Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, awesome. But what if we did a deal and you made $10,000? Would that be a good deal? Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right, so which one's a good deal? Is it 1,000 or 10,000?
Yeah.
Because you just gave the same definition and the same title to two different transactions, two different types of transactions. And so when that clicked in my mind, and I picked this up actually from a entrepreneur named Thatch Win. And funny enough, it was just a random Instagram reel I saw maybe 4 years ago, because I was stuck in a place where my average deal size was between $4,000 to $9,000, and I was just kind of stuck there. And that's what people were telling me: this is possible here. This is what you can do. And so that's how everyone in that particular marketplace had defined a deal. So subconsciously, I now began defining a deal as $4,000 to $9,000. And here's the fascinating thing. This is another fun story. I don't think I ever just give answers. I think I always just tell stories. I was running a coaching call for a Paces group inside the Sub2 network, and we're doing this nightly call. And this woman, she came on, and what we would do is we would help people make their first phone calls, homeowners, things of that nature. And she comes on, and you could just see it. She's hesitating about everything. She's uncertain. So they call me up on stage, and I came up to talk to her because, like, clearly she's got like a mindset issue. You're the mindset guy to her. I say, okay, like, let's work through this. I say, what are you trying to accomplish? She says, I want to get a deal. I'm like, okay, can you define a deal? She couldn't define a deal. How about this? Let's define a deal as doing more than $100,000 in profit. Like, I just wanted to really expand things. And she goes, you see her body, like, it reacts like, whoa, like that's not possible. $100,000 for a deal? That's not possible. I was trying to make a point, but now once I saw how she reacted, I leaned into it some more. I said, wait a second, what do you mean it's not possible to do $100,000 a deal? She's like, and I asked her, I said, do you believe that you can go out and do a real estate transaction and make $100,000 or more in that real estate transaction? Do you believe that Pace Morby can go out transaction and make $100,000 or more in a single transaction? Oh, absolutely, of course. Wait, so with Pace, it's absolutely, of course. With you, it's And I said, what's the difference between you and Pace? Give her a chance to even stutter at this point, because I'm getting a little pissed off that she didn't believe in herself. I go, the only difference is Pace believes it's possible, and you don't. Pace knows it's possible for him. He believes he can make it happen. The problem is you believe it's possible for everyone else but you. The
Yeah.
problem isn't the real estate market. The problem isn't anything else. The problem is right now you don't believe in yourself. And so, Jonathan, here's the funny thing. I got so fired up telling her that I, in that moment, said, you know what? Here's what I do. Right now, it's February. This was February, like 2 or 3 years ago. I say, it's February. Here's what I'm going to do. For the next 30 days are over, I'm going to go and do a $100,000 or more deal in February. And we're going to call it six-figure February. And the whole room, we got like about 500 people on a Zoom call. Like it was insane. It starts going wild in the chats. Figure February, six-figure February. And so my buddy Sam, he joins with this. But in that moment, Jonathan, when I say that, I made this public proclamation. Now, here's the interesting thing, Jonathan. Before that, the biggest check I made was probably like $11,000. Like I had not even come remotely close to the deal in a single transaction in a single month. But because I so believed in what I said to her, that her really was the fact that you believe it's possible for everyone else, but not possible for yourself. And if you believe that's possible for yourself, if you define what a deal is, if you define that this is what I'm going for, and then you also define who you would have to be to make it happen, and then you believe that you are that person and work on being that person, that you will in fact make it happen. I just applied that principle to myself. And in that month, February, here's the funny thing. I would come back to my team and I would tell them, all right, guys, like, here's the plan. This is what we're doing this month. The only thing that matters, we're going after a six-figure deal. That is it. We are looking for a six-figure deal. That is the only thing that matters. Everything else is irrelevant. Everything else pales in comparison. This is what we are focused on. And the whole team was like, okay. And so every day I would say, guys, what's today? And like February 3rd. No, it's six-figure February. Right? Like I would make them say it over and over. And we just ourselves into believing that the six-figure February thing is going to happen. Now, Jonathan, here's the reality. I had no stinking clue how I was going to find a six-figure deal, but I just started to believe that it was possible. And even inside my marketplace where people are telling me like, no, Marlon, the biggest deal that could ever possibly happen is maybe a 20,000, maybe a $30,000 deal, maybe, but not a six-figure deal. Well, Jonathan, guess what happened?
Landed it, baby.
Dude, we landed $108,000 in a single transaction in the month of February from one house. And inside of that, when that moment, like when it clicked, it was this reminder that you've got to define deal, right? Like you've got to get specific because here's what happened when we deal, and now we knew what we were looking for, and we believed it existed. We believed it was out there, contrary to everyone else's belief. I was willing to put my faith on it. And how do I know I had faith? Because I was taking action that said so, right? The way a person proves they have faith is through action. If you have faith that the parachute's going to open, the only way to prove it is to jump off the cliff. So I had faith that the deal was out there. So I came in and I told my whole team, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to say no. Check this out. We're going to say no to everything that isn't this. When we have conversations, we're going to have conversations to create this reality. A lot of getting the deals, you're not making the sort of money you want to make because you're still having conversations based on the old reality. You're not allowing yourself to act in the new reality. You're not even looking for the new reality. And so you've got to define the deal. You got to define the thing that would get you to your goal. And you have to define the type of person that you would have to be in order to even get it and hold it and keep it and find it. So this is major. That's a big part of the mindset. Got to add this with the money mindset because a lot of times the reason we want money is because we got problems, right? Like the reason you got money is typically money's got bills to pay. You got life to afford. And you start building this belief in your mind that money will solve your money problems. And that's just not the case. Like money does not solve your money problems. I learned this lesson the hard way. I learned this lesson the hard way. But if you don't change your financial avatar, if you don't adjust that, then ultimately it doesn't matter how much money you make, you'll always find yourself in the same position because there's three financial avatars. And I want you guys to really take this to heart. And if there's nothing else you listen to tonight, at least listen to this and share this with your kids, share this with your family, share this with your brothers and your sisters, that there's three avatars in finance and money. The first is a deficit. This is a person that it does not matter how much money you make, you spend more than you earn. So if you earn $1, you somehow find a way to spend $1.25. Doesn't matter how much money you make, right? So this person is constantly going 25 cents into a deficit. This is like America right now. America like operates as a deficit country. It doesn't matter how much money and revenue it brings in. It always spends more than it brings in. And typically because of the ability to have credit now, lines of credit, credit cards, we're able to go like it used to be like you got to zero, you couldn't go any lower. Now with credit cards and lines of credit, we can whistle on past zero. And I've been there before. So I'm not talking down on anybody. Like I mentioned before, I've been $30,000+ in debt, right? And it did not feel good. You constantly wake up and you feel like a slave to the money. And here's the interesting thing. These avatars, they're directional. They're not locational. It's about the direction that you're moving in, not where you're standing.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter if you're making a million, if you spend 1.1, you're in a deficit. And there are people like this out there. I know people who have come back to me and they're making $500,000 a year, $600,000 a year. But unfortunately, their lifestyle and their behaviors and their patterns lead them to have less money at the end of their paychecks than before. So you don't want to operate from a deficit. You want to stay far, far, far away from that. So the next level is I'm gonna break even. The next level is I spend about as much as I make. This is where most of the middle class lives, where you make a dollar, you spend a dollar. And what's interesting about this is the people here, this is actually, I would argue, one of the most dangerous positions to be. Because at least in a deficit, you know there's a problem. But when you're at this break even, it feels like there's a problem, especially because you can look at those people in the deficit and you can say, well, at least I'm not them, right? Like those people have bills and debt. At least like I cover mine. The problem is you're playing a game of chairs and you're not in control of the music. In fact, if anything, the pandemic showed us this at scale. How many businesses do you know that have been in the neighborhood, in the community for 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years that after the pandemic shut down totally forever, closed their doors? All right. And like, listen, I get it. 6 months of no new income, that's rough. You get it. But you're telling me after 50 years of business, you can withstand 6 months, not even a full year of having to close your doors. That tells me that you've been operating on a break even this entire time. You've been playing a game of musical chairs and the music just cut off and you had nothing left. They're some of the greatest companies in the world. If you shut off their revenue for a year, guess what? It would suck, but they would still get back. They would still keep operating because they're operating from the favorite place, which is a surplus. A surplus is when you bring in a dollar, but you only spend 80 cents. You bring in a dollar, but you only spend 70 cents. That at the end of your money, there's always more left over. And again, this is directional. It doesn't matter if you're making $100, $1,000, 10,000, 100,000, or a million. You want to be able to operate from a surplus because now you're directionally correct with your money. You are now a better steward of money. You're someone that money is now going to be attracted to because you don't squander it. You
Yeah.
find good use for it. You're in control of it. You discipline money. Money is kind of like a child, right? Like kids actually like structure and like, don't people, contrary to believe, kids actually want a structure. And when you start to create structure for money based on your internal financial avatar, you're going to find that money will start to come to you. You're going to find that other people will want to bring money to you. Inside of the world of real estate, I raise money. Like I've raised millions of dollars now in private capital where people will come to me with their hard-earned money, their 401ks, their self-directed IRAs, their retirement money, and they will give it to me. And they will say, Marlon, I see what you do. I see how you now take care of your money. I see how you take care of other people's money. I see that you're somebody that makes money grow. You're somebody that after you're done spending money, there's a profit on the backside for having spent it. What, like, take my money and grow it. That's the type of person you'll be because now money will be attracted to you. So instead of you constantly chasing money, think about this. I just want to offer this perspective. What would it look like for you to become a person that money is attracted to?
Yep. I love that, man. Oh, this
Find some of
morning,
my favorite
brother.
conversations, bro. These are some of my favorite talks, man.
100%, man. I absolutely love this. And just taking a little bit of a step back, because you did just go on a tear there. I loved how you brought up the analogy of someone setting limits on their success. Stories that come to my mind are Todd what the heck guy's name? With the 4 minute mile. I pulled up here. I just
Oh, yep.
Todd Bannister, I think it was, or something like that. And then Russell Brunson with the $1 million webinar in 90 minutes, right? And then
Roger Bannister.
Roger Bannister, 100%. And then, man, think of Michael Jordan and how many championships he had, right? He had a different time horizon and thought process, and he just
Yep.
overcame that based on what those limits were that you were expecting. And where my mind goes with all that too is like, oftentimes we have ourselves in this box, right? And when we begin to remove ourselves from the box and kind of see like, think of things in a different way, that just leap to that next level. And that's like what you were explaining with pace there. Like you saw him approaching things that wasn't even really your paradigm at that time, and then you had a different paradigm shift. So
100%.
I really really love that. And then really just awareness around the three levels of money. That's massively important. And then I mean we could go on for about the cash flow quadrants. I'm sure you're like huge into those if you were in with Kiyosaki. But we've gone here for almost an hour now, and I really all your time. By all means, you can keep ripping there. But I think the biggest so far that I've learned and taken away from this one is really thinking outside of the box, right? Like that trip to New York that you took, and your the we're fortunate enough to be in with Pace and putting yourself out there and having that massive growth. Then about how you took that calculated risk like in that opportunity, and then that helped you level up because you were able to see a few of the things you were doing differently. And then framing the way you're thinking, right? That's when you talked about this with the woman and how she really couldn't overcome that 10K thought process, right? And I loved how you set that goal for your team to achieve that 100K, and you're like, we're just not going to do any of those deals, right? And then lo and behold, when you set those new frames and you thought outside to that next level, you went ahead and achieved that, right? Because you attracted that into your life because you expanded that mindset. And then overall awareness, man, like you are super, super good at just being of what's going on in the environment. It's a big thing for growth, right? In my opinion, like just of us are kind of I was used to just float life and I wasn't aware of wanted like where I wanted to go, like where my money was coming and going from. That was a huge thing and kind of slowing things down a bit because the world we live in today is like very fast paced, right? And we just get caught in that cycle of just run, run, run. But that's something you really taught me is just calm things down, breathe a little bit, think about them, right? And that really helps just make everything far more intentional and brings awareness into things. So yeah, man, those are some of the big takeaways that I had. Had some comments. Folks are loving all the gems you're dropping, man, from just aligned with your identity and income, getting those things lined up, consistency, compounding interest, man, the whole goes on here. So and keep up if you want, or if there's any last gold nugget you want to drop in, we can pretty much come to a close here, man.
Yeah, I mean, the I want to say, and like I kind of feel extremely compelled to say this, that as about this, you and I had this conversation yesterday where my faith to me,
Yeah.
and it's a part of that identity that all these things, like the good that have happened in my life, I got to be honest, guys, it's not because of me, right?
Mm,
Like I believe in God personally, and so I feel God has through these identities, right? Being able to operate from this place of abundance. The reason that we're able to do this is because we understand that we live in this abundant universe. Like it's one of those, if you believe you live in this infinite possibility, to get narrowed down on these small issues that occur is to focus on scarcity. It's to focus on something that quite literally doesn't exist except for in your own mind because you created it. Right? It's like either you live in an infinite, abundant universe or you live in a universe. And
mm,
I believe personally that I live in this absolutely abundant universe that God's given. And so, with that being the case,
yeah.
if I'm living in his like abundant garden right now, if I'm living in an abundant universe, then what is to ever stress and worry about? And when I do
Mm,
find myself stressing and worrying, I realize that the issue isn't in the actual circumstance. The issue is in my lack of awareness. And
mm.
again, that's a personal development thing. So as you guys go on your entrepreneurial journey, just recognize that when you signed up for business, what you actually signed up for was personal development on steroids, because that's what business is. It is just a crazy Trojan horse of personal development. Like you thought, like, oh yeah, I'm just getting into entrepreneurship. No, you're getting into yourself. You're getting to through some difficult things and having more clarity in your own life.
Absolutely love that, and I totally agree, man. That's where I was fortunate enough to start, and development. It's got to be of it, right? Because you're just gonna fizzle out and not have a purpose and reason why, right? Right on, dude. So with that being said, why don't you just drop us a little like elevator pitch of who you love to work with, how people can find you. YouTube and IG are big for you. And yeah, take us on out, man. Again, I was super grateful to have you on today, and uh, yeah, man.
I love that, man, for having me.
Yeah.
So the place for you guys to find me, YouTube and Instagram, all at like at Mindset Marlon. That's where you're gonna find me. I'm the most active. I run a live YouTube podcast every Monday at 12 o'clock Arizona time, and a live YouTube podcast every Tuesday at 5 o'clock Arizona time, where I sit down on Mondays. I interview high level entrepreneurs, 6, 7, 8, and 9 figure entrepreneurs. We dive into their story, we dive into their mindset, we dive into their process. And then on Tuesdays, it is high tactics with me and one of my best friends, Sam Singh. We just dive in tactics behind real estate. So that Tuesday is a lot more geared towards real estate investors.
Mm,
Monday is geared to entrepreneurs on a whole. And the people I work with, people I'm now lucky and blessed enough and fortunate enough to be able to coach other entrepreneurs. Typically, I work with just people who are making at least $10,000 a month, who have been in business for at least 6 months, and they're currently in a season of they're stuck, right?
mm,
And the best way I like to say this is my little elevator pitch, is if you have all the resources, but you haven't been able to produce the results, let's have a conversation. Because now I know you don't have a resource issue. There's something going on up here, and I want to get you unstuck. So
mm.
if you feel like that's you, if you feel like that resonates with you, reach out to me on Instagram, DM me the word coach on Instagram, and we'll have a conversation. If that doesn't resonate with you, it's all good. That just means you're not the person that I'm meant to serve. So,
Love that.
Jonathan, thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Really appreciate this. I'll definitely get this out on the all over the place too. Man, awesome. Great live today. We'll catch you all next week at 1 p.m. ES for another week of conversion talk, right? Usually I throw these personal developments in like every once a month just to get some new life, some new from the community. And man, this was the great one. So with all that said, we'll see you.